There's always that one person everybody likes instantly. You know the type. You meet them once, and somehow you already feel comfortable around them, like you've known them for way longer than you actually have. Every time you talk to them, you feel like they're actually listening, like they actually care what you're saying, like they see something decent in you, even if you don't always see it in yourself. And it's crazy because wherever these people go, they just seem to have people around them. People want to invite them places. People want to include them. People just naturally gravitate toward them without even really knowing why. And if you think about it, you can probably only name like 2 or 3 people in your whole life who actually fit that description perfectly. That's how rare it actually is. And what's wild is the more likable someone is, the more doors just seem to open for them. More opportunities, more people wanting to be around them, more good stuff just kind of comes their way. You could sit there and say, that's not fair. They didn't necessarily earn that. But it doesn't really change the fact that it's true. Likable people just tend to do better in pretty much every area of life compared to people that nobody really wants to be around. Now, before we get into what actually makes someone likable, I want to knock out something people usually say when this topic comes up. A lot of people here become more likable and immediately get defensive about it. Like, why should I care what other people think of me? I should just be myself, and whoever doesn't like it can deal with it. And look, I get the sentiment, but honestly, that mindset doesn't really get you anywhere, especially if you already struggle with people and you've been telling yourself just being more of myself is gonna magically fix that. Cause be real for a second, how's that actually been working out so far? A lot of what you think is just your personality is honestly just a habit you picked up somewhere along the way. Could be from your friend group, could be from your family, could just be something you never noticed you were doing. Like if you don't make good eye contact with people and you just always look away or look down, that's not some deep, unchangeable trait. That's just a habit. And if you actually fix that habit, it's not like you'd be betraying who you really are. You'd just be adjusting something small that happens to change how people experience being around you. So this isn't about becoming a fake version of yourself. It's about noticing the small stuff that might actually be working against you without you even realizing it. Alright, so here's the biggest thing I've picked up on with naturally likable ones. People don't really remember what you actually said to them. They remember how being around you made them feel. That's the actual thing that sticks, not the details of the conversation. Think about it like this. You know when someone's venting to you about their whole day, they're heated, they're going off about everything that went wrong, and you're sitting there actually trying to listen. You try to say something back, maybe give a little input or ask a question, and they just talk right over you and keep going like you didn't even say anything. How do you feel after that? You kind of check out mentally, you stop really listening to the specifics of what they're saying, and all you're left with is this feeling that they didn't actually care what you had to say. That feeling is what you walk away remembering, not the actual content of what they said to you. And that's basically how every interaction works, whether people realize it or not. It's not about the specific words being exchanged, it's about the vibe the whole thing leaves you with. Did that person make you feel like your input mattered? Or did you feel kind of invisible the entire time, like you were talking to a wall that happened to talk back? That feeling is basically the whole thing people are actually judging you on, even if they couldn't tell you exactly why they liked or disliked talking to you afterward. There's this dating example that kind of explains this whole thing perfectly. Picture some guy on a date just talking about himself the entire time. His job, how much he makes, random facts about his life, all stuff he thinks sounds impressive. Then he catches himself talking too much and throws in a couple of routine questions back. Oh, how many siblings do you have? Stuff like that. This goes back and forth for like an hour, and she goes home thinking, he seemed nice, but I just didn't feel like there was a spark. That's the thing about naturally likable people. They're not out here trying to impress anyone with facts about themselves. Nobody actually remembers the job title or the impressive details later. What people remember is that spark. And that spark is just the energy someone gives off in the moment. Likable people just naturally carry that energy without trying to perform it. If someone's tense or trying too hard to sound impressive, the other person picks up on that tension and mirrors it right back. But the naturally likable ones are just relaxed in the interaction. So the people around them end up relaxed too. Another thing is they're genuinely interested in other people instead of trying to make themselves look interesting. And what's funny is that's exactly why people end up liking them more. When someone actually seems curious about you, actually asks follow-up questions, actually seems locked in on what you're saying instead of just waiting to talk again, you naturally end up warming up to them. And you end up asking them more about themselves in return without even realizing you're doing it. It's kind of backwards from what people assume makes someone likable. Most people think you have to be interesting to be liked. You gotta have cool stories, an impressive job, exciting stuff going on. So they walk into every interaction trying to prove they're worth talking to. But the naturally likable ones flip that completely. They're interested first, and the liking happens as a result of that, not the other way around. They're not sitting there thinking about how to sound impressive. They're actually locked into what the other person's saying, remembering little details, asking about stuff that came up earlier in the conversation. And it's not some calculated strategy they're running either. It's not like they sat down and studied how to fake interest in people. It's just how they naturally show up in a conversation, actually curious about the other person's life, their day, their opinions, instead of treating the conversation like their turn to perform. I think that's probably the biggest difference between someone who's naturally likable and someone who's just trying really hard to be liked. And there's this kind of paradox with the naturally likable ones too. You'd think the most confident, most accomplished people would be the ones talking about themselves the most, but it's usually the opposite. The ones who actually feel good about their own life tend to be the ones least interested in bringing it up. Think about why that actually makes sense. If someone's insecure about their job, their relationship, whatever it is, every time it comes up in conversation, there's this little part of them hoping the other person reacts with, "Oh wow, that's impressive," or "That's so cool." They're kind of fishing for that reaction without even realizing. But someone who's actually comfortable with where they're at in life doesn't need that reaction from anybody. So they're not bringing themselves up trying to get validated every 2 minutes. That frees them up to actually focus on the person in front of them instead of steering the conversation back to themselves over and over. So it's not that naturally likable people don't have interesting stuff going on in their lives. It's that they don't need to prove it to you. And ironically, that's exactly what makes people curious about them. They're not chasing your approval, so you end up wanting to give it to them anyway. And I think that's really what it all comes down to. Naturally likable people just genuinely like their own life. They're not necessarily doing anything wrong they need to compensate for. They're not looking around for reasons to feel better about themselves. So they're free to actually be curious about you instead of needing something from you.